This is Daron Bartlett, conversations where we talk about political affairs happening on the African continent. And today, let's talk about Sudan, where a new prime minister, Kamil Idris, who is a former UN official, has been appointed by the junta government in Sudan to be the prime minister of the country. Now, they've not had a prime minister for quite a long time, ever since they fell out. It's now been 2 years since the military government in Sudan fell out with the paramilitary group. Those are two armies who have been fighting each other for that very long. And this time, at that time, actually, they had a civilian which was a transitional kind of like government. And when everything fell out, they sacked him, rearrested him, and everything went on. They went into war. Now, they have a prime minister. But is this prime minister acceptable by the paramilitary group? I'm not sure. That's why they're probably still at war. But the decision to appoint that prime minister, Kamil Idris, has been welcomed by the AU, which is the African nations, and I feel like this could be probably a big step towards returning peace in the country. Now, Sudan has had a lot of issues. If you ask me, almost all the governments that have been on ever since they got independence from the British and the Egyptians. You know, Egypt and Britain worked together to colonize Sudan for a very long time, and they had so many coups after another. Even Bashir, who is also the former leader of Sudan, had the same issue with the government there. He was also overthrown, and that's how the army leadership came into power. So they've had their issues that there. But we are thinking that, is this going to be a time where finally we see a stable government happening or coming into place in Sudan by starting with an appointment of a prime minister? We don't know, but the people of Sudan actually want a democratic government, a civilian government coming into place. Many people that I've had conversations with on X believe that it could be one of those situations that happen whereby Egypt, when they had a revolution and then the military took over and then the head of military retired from military service and went into elective elections, and then he became a president. I'm talking about President Sisi of Egypt. So they feel like, is this going to be the same scenario where the army leader Abdel Fattah Burhan uses this as a yardstick, or uses this as a vehicle to go ahead and also retire from the army and later on come back as a civilian and rule the country? We don't know, because there is still war going on in Sudan. Tough direction, I must say. But I think seeing a civilian ruler after a long time is something that maybe might calm civilians to start to believe in the military rule that is happening here. Now, listen. Kamil Idris is well known in the international circles. I mean, he did international law, and he's so very well versed when it comes to things of international relationships or affairs. I mean, since 1997 up to around 2008, these are the circles that he was actually working with for a very long time. So we may see some progress in terms of the political atmosphere around Sudan, but the biggest battle they have is to convince the paramilitary army that we actually need to move into the direction of peace and then reconcile the country later on. Otherwise, for them, they believe that they should be the leaders, or they don't agree with what the de facto leader Al-Burhan, direction he has, and for them, they think that the actual direction should now be civilly to rule, or for them to rule. So it's one of those things where two army heads feel that they should be the ones in power, or they should be the ones dictating about, or maybe dictating on what happens in Sudan. All the best, Sudan. I can't keep this story so long. All I had to do is give you the news that is happening. My name is Daron Bartlett, and every time you come to this channel, please subscribe. We just talk about the news stories that are happening on the continent.